Do you have a goat kid coming and you don't know what you need in your bag and you want to know how to prepare best? Maybe you just need more supplies in your bag so that way when your kids do come, you're really prepared. Well, make sure to stick around. Today we're going to go over what exactly you should have in your goat kid go bag. So first, I like to keep everything in a nice bag that can easily be taken outside if we need to, like in a hurry, if for example we're having kids and we weren't expecting it. Because that's happened. So we have this little bag. Yeah, it's dirty, I know. But, and this is where we keep everything in it. It's basically an old purse. And, yeah, but it works. So we'll go over the absolutely necessary things first, and then we'll go over all the extra stuff that is super helpful. So first and foremost, you're gonna need gloves. This is important because you may not feel like you need them, but they actually can come in handy really well because if you need to get dirty or anything else and get in there, this can make that a lot easier. And because if you have fingernails or scratches or anything on your hands, this can make it a lot easier to make that happen. To go along with the gloves, you are going to need some petroleum jelly lubricant. So just get the cheapest stuff you can find at the grocery store. This is what we were able to find. You need this because along with those gloves, basically sometimes if your goat kid is presenting poorly and you need to go into the mama and kind of move the goat kid around, maybe move some feet or a head, then you want it to be lubricated so you don't hurt the mom or the kid. I should also mention these all will be linked in the description below if you want to take a look at any of these items and maybe add them to your own go bag. The third thing that's on my list that I absolutely need every time is what's called a kid puller. This thing is great because what it'll do is you can kind of slide it out and you get a large loop here. This, along with your gloves and your lubricant, you can go in there and put this around the kid's feet or whatever you need if you need to get the kid out. You just take this in with your gloved hand and the lubricant, put it around, and then basically all you'll do is with the other hands push this slide thing up, you know, and then you can get a good grip on them. It's also got a nice handle on the other side, and you can easily, well, not that hard, but you know, slowly assist them out. But this thing can really help, especially if you have an emergency type situation with your goat mama. So the rest of the things in here are basically optional, but they are really helpful and I highly suggest you have them. So the first one is actually going to be coconut oil. This thing works a couple of different ways. This can actually help not only lubricate things if you need that instead of the petroleum jelly lubricant, but it can also help to soothe things like your mama's rear end kind of after she is done pushing and kids are out, and that can just help things heal a little bit faster. So yeah, coconut oil for sure. Okay. This should go without saying, but I'll say it anyways, is all sorts of towels of some form. We use a lot of these old blue towels that we got from my family, and some old like dish towels and stuff. This can be helpful for cleaning things off if you need to, and then also we have a chuck or a pet absorbent pad that usually like a pee pad kind of a thing. These you can put under a baby if you need to, if you're working on them for a bit, or clean things up if you need to. Just a quick note though, when your kid does come out, if he's coming out normally, or she for that matter, don't be quick to clean up your kid. And I say that because if it's like normal, then your mama will actually clean off the kid, and that's good for their bonding. I know it's kind of disgusting, but she'll lick everything off, you know, and clean up the kid. And that's actually how we found our first kid, was cleaned off already by mama. And so that does help them bond a little bit. Okay, the next two things kind of go together, and that's going to be isopropyl alcohol, which you should be able to get. We use the 70% version, as well as a chlorhexidine skin cleaner. So these can be great for if you need to sanitize like some tools, you know, scissors, that kind of stuff. It's helpful to have, and this is good for your hands. So before you put those gloves on, or after you take them off, use some of this chlorhexidine. This is basically what they use in hospitals for cleaning up things prior to giving you an IV. So these are definitely things that I would recommend having. Alrighty. So next thing in here, we have a bunch of, I forget what they're called, nasal aspirator syringes or something like that. They're the bulb sucker things that you use for human kids. But these can be useful, especially if they have a lot of fluid that's in their lungs and you need to get it out. These are really cheap. We got a 3-pack for them and we can just toss them in there, and it's good to have just in case. Like I mentioned earlier, some good medical cutting scissors. These were left over from our daughter with all of her supplies, but you can also get them below, and these can be used to cut a lot of different things if you need it. Like, it's just a good backup, right? For example, any cords that you might have to cut, if you absolutely need to, you can do that. If you need to cut any, like Coban, for example, tape, which is another thing you need. You'll need the scissors, or, you know, sometimes you don't, you can just rip it. But the Coban is good for, like, if there is a wound or something out there that happens, you know, maybe she has tripped and fallen, or a kid got hurt, something, right? You can have your scissors and your Coban, and that way you can wrap it up and keep it nice and clean and sterile. All right, next two things can be important if something goes wrong and you need to give medicine. You need to get a few things, right? First, you need a temperature of the kid. So you need a good, or just a cheap rather, thermometer, and you'll need a rectal thermometer, so that you can use for that goat kid. The temperatures of kids are different than humans, so be sure of that before you make any judgment or actions based on the temperature. But you still will need a thermometer. The other thing is going to be a weight tape. This thing is super helpful because you know how difficult it is to actually, like, measure your goats, especially your adult ones, or try to get them weighed actually. Well, if you have goats, you probably do know how stubborn they are and how difficult that would be. So this weight tape is actually super helpful because what it'll do is you put it around, I forget where, but there's instructions here, but you can put it around their stomach somewhere and it'll actually give you a really good estimate of how much they weigh. And so this is super helpful, mostly for your mama goat, because if you need to give her any sort of medications or B vitamins, something or other, then this will give you a good estimate of weight, so you know exactly how much to give her. The other thing, last couple things that we leave in here is vetrimycin. This thing, like the Coban and the scissors, can help with cutting, you know, wounds if you have it. You can clean it off with this stuff or the alcohol and then wrap it up. But this is super helpful to have because it can work on almost anything. And the last thing that we really have in here is what's called a stomach feeding kit. As you can tell with some of this stuff, we kind of use it as a goat emergency kit as well, because a lot of the things go together. And this is a good example of one. And this would be perfect for like your goat kids if they're not eating or refuse to eat from a bottle even, or mama, for a period of time. Right, with goat kids, you want to get them attached to mama as soon as possible to get them to start eating, because they will need that energy and they expend it a lot during birth. So if that doesn't work, you can always get one of these stomach feeding kits. This is kind of a last resort, and I won't go over it here, but you need to know how to use it and how to make sure to get into the stomach and not the lungs, because you can cause some serious damage and cause them to aspirate if you get it in their lungs and not their stomach. So make sure you know what you're doing if you use this, but it can be very helpful and life-saving to give them some nutrition that they absolutely need that they may not have gotten from their mama. So we have it in there just in case. And the last thing that comes with my bag is us, right? You are the most critical part of dealing with a goat emergency. And you need to remember something, that you are not the one having the emergency, the goat is. So there is no need for you to get anxious, frustrated, upset, you know, stressed out, any of that stuff. Your goat is doing that enough as it is. So the best thing that you can do is just be calm. Take things step by step. Know what you need to do, have all the supplies you need by having a good bag, and do what you can for your goat methodically. If you need help above that, you can always call your vet, or something like the Goat Emergency Team on Facebook is a great resource that we've used. but you really need to stay calm, and that is the best thing you can do for your goats and your kids. And before you know it, you'll have baby kids everywhere in your farm, and it'll just be a wonderful day. Goat kids are something amazing, and we look forward to having ours soon. If you didn't know, Meriwether, our goat, is pregnant and is going to give birth in about 2 to 3 weeks, so we are definitely going to use this soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that video when she does actually give birth. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.